this is Debbie. We are starting our first podcast today for our Hobby Farm Dream. We are really excited to be doing this so that we can go more in depth to some things that we're doing here on our farm. We hope that you'll come along on this journey and enjoy learning some about hobby farming. The first one today that we wanted to do on our podcast is we wanted to tell you a little bit about how we got started on our hobby farm. And my husband and I were married about 41 years ago, and during our whole married lives, we'd always wanted to have a farm of some sort, to have the animals and a garden and fruit trees. And the money was tight at the time, and we weren't able to do that with our children. And so when we were a little bit older, in our 50s, we decided that we were going to finally live our dream of having a hobby farm. And this was after I had had breast cancer, and we decided that life is short and that it's time to live our dreams. And so in our 50s, we decided to buy some land and an acre and a quarter and start our hobby farm in Arizona. So at our age, when our children were adults, some people thought that we were taking a risk and that we shouldn't be doing this. It's too much work at an age when more people are starting to think about retirement. But for us, this is what we wanted to do. And even though maybe to some people it was slightly crazy, we were really excited to be able to do this. They would question us sometimes on it, but we knew this was our dream and that this is what we wanted, even though we were at a different stage of life. We knew we wanted a reason to get up in the morning. We wanted a purpose in our daily living. We wanted to learn about raising animals. We wanted to add to what we already knew about gardening. And we wanted to know how to be more self-sustaining. But little did we know at that time that many of the skills that we were learning would help us during the upcoming COVID pandemic. And our first dream for our future small farm included the dream of having a horse. We purchased a horse that was untrained and was too much for us as the beginners. But after selling our first horse, we did get smart, and we took someone knowledgeable with us to pick out a better horse for beginners. We found a 10-year-old quarter horse named Ruby Red and boarded her at a local horse facility. She'd been only owned by 2 other people and was very well trained, and she was perfect for what we were looking for. And then we decided after a few years that we wanted to bring Ruby to live with us, but we knew that that meant we needed to look for some small acreage to keep her on our acreage. So we found this acre and a quarter, like I said before, in Arizona, and we built our home on the bare ground. After about a year, we were able to build a stall for Ruby and plant grass for a pasture so we could bring her home. And what an exciting day that was. We were looking outside to see Ruby was the start of fulfilling our dreams. We smiled from ear to ear every time we looked out, and we saw that this amazing, beautiful horse, Ruby, was contentedly munching on the grass in our pasture. What a sight and what a dream come true. And after we brought Ruby to our farm, we bought some day-old chicks through a mail order company. We ordered at the time buff Orpingtons, lavender Orpingtons, Easter eggers, and golden lace Juanettes to start with. And they're all good egg layers, and they all have docile temperaments, which was wonderful. We had to learn about what day-old chickens needed and how to care for them. And a little later, after looking at some pictures online, my husband Floyd was able to build a beautiful red chicken coop and run for our growing chickens. And we were amazed at how curious and interesting and entertaining they were. And in about 5 months, they started laying beautiful eggs. When we tasted those fresh eggs, we knew we were hooked and we had hit the jackpot for great tasting eggs. A few years later, we also raised meat chickens, Ranger Reds, and after a few months, we were able to have them processed and enjoy delicious chicken that we pasture-raised ourselves. And we knew what the chickens had been fed and that they had lived a great life and that they had provided delicious homegrown food for our family. And after these chickens, the next animals we decided to bring to our farm were some baby doll sheep. We got those out of Illinois, and they were shipped to us by a farm called Woolly Treasured Farm. And they were 3-month-old lambs when they came to us, and we picked them up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it was quite the adventure bringing them to our farm. The baby doll sheep, they originally came from England, and they're short in stature, measuring at the shoulder. They look like they're smiling all their time, and they are very docile and sweet. The baby doll sheep ate our weeds and grass, and they were great additions to our farm. After we had added a few of our favorite animals to our already, at the time, 3 dogs and a cat, we decided we wanted to add a large garden and fruit trees. We started out with a few wooden grow boxes and a larger in-ground garden. Our favorite spring crop has always been homegrown tomatoes, so we planted those in the grow boxes. Larger crops like zucchini and corn went into the open garden. Over time, we added more grow boxes and archway, downsized our open garden, and we put a little white picket fence around our garden. We also added some citrus and fruit trees to our back and front areas. We're going on into our 8th and 9th year of living on our hobby farm, and we're still growing and learning. We've enjoyed the journey of learning new self-sufficiency skills like trying new animals, experimenting with new vegetables and flowers in our garden, and making our dreams come true. And we hope you'll enjoy listening to these podcasts as you follow what our journey has been on this hobby farm, that you'll want to start your hobby farm and you'll get some good ideas on how to do it and from some things that we learned here. Some people will ask us what exactly is a hobby farm. If you look up the definition, it's not always a money-making farm, but you can make some money on a hobby farm, but normally it's done more for pleasure. That being said, it is not always enough to sustain your financial life with the little bits of money that you make on your hobby farm. Most people that have hobby farms have other employment or sources of main income, or they're retired from their work. A farm is also considered a hobby farm when it is less than 50 acres of land. The goals of a hobby farm can vary. Some may just want a few animals in a garden. Some may choose to learn self-sufficiency skills like sourdough or canning their garden produce. Some hobby farmers may just enjoy animals and gardening and want to live a life of getting back to nature and having more say in the quality and taste of their food. The goals of your hobby farm are totally up to you. For us, hobby farming meant gradually adding farm animals to our farm. It meant having animals not only for food, as in meat, chickens, and eggs, but for enjoyment. It meant to us that having a garden would produce enough food that not only would feed us and our family, but that we could also share with our friends and neighbors. Our first goal was that we wanted to grow food that was not only delicious, but food that we knew was not sprayed with pesticides. We wanted healthy, easily available food to feed our family and our loved ones. And we wanted also to teach our community about how fun and easy it is to grow your own food through things like gardening classes and sufficiency classes, and how good the taste of a pasture-raised egg could be by sharing our eggs with our neighbors. Another goal of ours was to invite children from local home schools and small schools to our farm to learn about farm animals. Many of these are city children, and they've never been to a farm or seen farm animals up close. We wanted them to know what they look like, what they smell like, what they eat every day, and how to care for them. And we wanted to do things like inviting children to the farm with field trips and horse camps. We also wanted to make a sanctuary of our farm that would be helping others with their emotional mental health by feeling the serenity and the joy that you can have by just hanging out with animals and being in a peaceful flower and vegetable garden. Our hobby farm also included selling farm fresh eggs and also sourdough starter and loaves of sourdough bread to our neighbors and community. We were also able to make a small amount of money doing gardening classes, field trips, and horse camps. We knew that this would not be our only income. My husband still has a full-time job, but it helped us to do what we love and we're passionate about, and then to share it with our local community. Also, starting a little bit later in our lives, it gave us a new excitement for life, to be finally able to live our dreams of our small farm. My husband Floyd and I like to work side by side, making a hobby farm become what we had always dreamed of. And we've been able to share this hobby farm with friends and family and with our grandkids. We slowly saw our garden become what we had envisioned, full of vegetables, flowers, a chicken coop, and a beautiful archway. We even built a stall not only for our horse, but we fixed a cage for our sheep. We were able to plant grass for pastures. We planted shade trees and many fruit trees, peach trees, apricot trees, and also citrus trees, which grow well here in Arizona. We learned what it took to keep animals like baby doll sheep, a horse, lots of chickens. Also, we raised turkeys and meat chickens. And yes, there's been many times when the work was very hard, and we were able to reach out to family and neighbors and those we associated with in our church and community who pitched in to help us along the way. And one of those things was building the horse stall, was something we'd never done before. And so we called in some friends and family to help us do that, and that was a great, great help to us. So you can reach out into your community to help you with your hobby farm and to get started and fixing the structures in your yard and in your farm. And in return, we made many new friendships, and we absolutely love this new life that we've started. There are a few questions that you might want to think about before you start your hobby farm. How much land do I have, or how much can I afford to buy? And in order to do any type of hobby farming, you'll need some kind of land to grow a garden, grow fruit trees, and raise animals. And remember, a hobby farm is defined as 50 acres or less. Hobby farming will require some money to get started. Land can be expensive, and depending on where you buy it. For us, in our 50s, after our family was grown, we decided we wanted to sell our home that we own in a suburban neighborhood and buy a small parcel of land. It was an acre and a quarter, like I said earlier. It was enough that we could have a large garden, plenty of fruit trees, many chickens, and a few larger animals, and it fit us perfectly. The price was affordable to us at this stage of our lives. We needed to build the house and set up the structures and plant grass. But if you're ready to buy some land to start your hobby farm, then look around and find the best area for you that you can get the most amount of land that you can afford. Your first bit of land does not have to be the only place that you will ever live or build a hobby farm. It can be your hobby farm for a few years until you can afford maybe to buy a bigger piece of land. And the right piece of land could already have a house on it, or you may have to start from scratch like we did and build your home. And if you dream it, I'm telling you right now, you can achieve it. We are proof of that. It took many years of dreaming and then working hard to come to the place we are now. The second question that you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to do on my hobby farm? Do I just want to grow things? Do I want a garden to grow flowers in? Do I want a veggie garden or some fruit trees? And do you want animals on your farm? Do you want just chickens? Do you want to raise other poultry such as ducks, geese, or turkeys? Do you want to have chickens that just lay eggs, or are you interested in raising meat chickens? Do you see yourself with animals such as horses, cows, goats, sheep, or pigs? Do you see yourself just having animals as pets, or do you want to raise animals for meat for your family to eat or to sell? Do you see yourself making any money on your hobby farm? Do you want to sell the flowers or veggies on your farm to local restaurants or farmers markets? Do you want to sell eggs or chickens? Do you want to share what you are learning with your local community? These are all things to think about before deciding how much land you will need to live your dreams. A word of good advice that was given to us is, when you decide what you want for your small farm, don't overwhelm yourself right at the first, adding too much in a way of a super huge garden or loads of animals to take care of. Start with a smaller garden and easier animals such as chickens, and we promise you it will not overwhelm you right from the start. There will be plenty of time to add more things to your garden or to add some new animals as time goes on. I heard some great advice once on a podcast about buying even a dairy cow for your small farm. The speaker made it clear that you are not married to the dairy cow that you bought, and so you can sell it. If it's not working out as the right cow for you. I found this to be great advice. If something that you decided to add to your farm, whether it's an animal or anything like that is just not working out for you, it's too much. Maybe you added goats and they're not working out for you. Find a way to change it. It's okay to say, I'm not ready for this commitment right now. This is too much. Or for us, we raised turkeys and it was a lot of work. And for us, we don't feel like that's the right thing for us to do again. But if you raised meat turkeys and you enjoyed that, then you could do that again, or you could decide, I'm never doing that again. So just because you bring these animals to your farm doesn't mean you always have to keep those animals. You can always find something else that works better for you. The next thing to think about before purchasing your farm is, how much time do we have to devote to this farm? Are you working a 9-to-5 type of job? Because if you are, you might need to have a smaller amount of animals or things to do on your farm. Are you retired? Do you have more time to spend on it? Do you have the health and the energy? Taking care of a small farm, even a hobby farm that has gardens and trees and animals, it's going to take work. It's going to take responsibility and time. How much extra time do you have? And that will determine how much land you'll want to buy to raise the chickens and to grow the vegetables and the trees, and also to harvest and process your food and care for the animals on your farm. Then after you've chosen your land for your hobby farm and you're living your dream, You also need money to sustain your farm. Animals have the expenses of food and vet visits. Animals such as sheep require shearing and foot trims a few times a year. They also require shots and worming. Horses require also vet visits and farrier visits for foot trims and shoes. Cows and goats also require vet visits and trims. These are all things to consider before buying your hobby farm. For us, having a small amount of animals to care for has been a perfect fit. We have 23 egg-laying chickens, a horse, 2 baby doll sheep, 1 dog, and a cat. We have daily responsibilities to care for these animals, but it has not felt overwhelming. We're able to get family and neighbors and church member friends to come over and take care of our animals if we need to go out of town for vacation for a while. We also have family sons that can come and help with the animals. We did decide right from the beginning that we did want a large garden. That was very important to us, and we knew that we needed an automatic watering system where we live. It's very hot. It's a low desert, but we knew that we needed a really good watering system during the hot summers, and especially when we were out of town. So we invested in some equipment also for canning, freezing, and storing our harvest each winter and summer. Those are some things that you need to think about, something you may need to spend some money on. And for us, a garden is not only a hobby, but a place we wanted to spend our extra time. So it didn't bother us to spend the money there. We enjoyed the whole process of making the grow boxes and finding the right mixture of soil and compost, planting the seeds and the seedlings, and of course, harvesting the bounty in the garden. Now, the canning, the freezing, the drying, and the storing from our garden bounty was added work, but we found that it was very enjoyable to learn these new skills and to have food to eat throughout the whole year. Start out with some goals for your hobby farm if that's what you're thinking of doing. They can change sometimes over time with what you want your small farm to be. Also, writing down some basic, well-thought-out goals will help you decide what it is you want for your hobby farm. Here's just an example of a few of the goals that we set when we first began our hobby farm journey. The first one was in gardening. Number one, we wanted a large vegetable and flower garden with fruit trees. And number two, we wanted farm animals, a horse, sheep, chickens, a barn cat, and dogs, and meat chickens and turkeys in a few years. Number three was we wanted to learn about canning meats, vegetables, fruits, and jam. Number four goal was that we wanted to learn about self-sufficiency skills such as sourdough, water storage, drying foods, pickling foods, and storing foods. And the fifth goal that we started with was teaching our local community about farm animals, farm life, growing a garden, self-sufficiency skills such as sourdough bread making. Setting down like some of these solid goals right at the beginning will help you know if the time is right for you and your family to buy your hobby farm and begin your hobby farm dream. Just want to talk a little bit about some basic things that you'll need to start your hobby farm. And there are 5 basic things that we thought of that you'd need to start your hobby farm. And first of all, if you're able to start your hobby farm and get your land, that's really, really exciting. And we felt the same way when we got our land. We were so excited for the next steps in starting our farm. And depending on whether you bought bare land or whether you already bought a structure or a home that's already on the land, will depend on what you start out with. For us, we bought bare land, so we hired a contractor to build our home. And that process took a year from start to finish. And if your property has a home and structures on it, then you're all ready to begin your hobby farm. Keep in mind that if you'll want to take time to set things up and get your hobby farm how you want it to be. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. Many things will be trial and error, but just remember it will all work out. It can be hard in the beginning because we want everything perfect. I remember visiting somebody else's farm out where we live, and they had everything in place, but she'd also lived there for 20 years. And I was a little discouraged after I went there and I came home to a bare piece of land. But then I realized that it takes time, that she had to live there a long time and work on her farm for a long time before she could get it where all the structures and the way that she wanted it. So don't give up. The second thing that you need to think about is to start out with, decide what's the easiest thing you could do on your hobby farm. For us, it was to plan out a large garden on the front side of our home. We decided to build a few grow boxes out of pine and cedar and use some of our garden as an open garden for larger crops like corn and squash. We found a spot that had good sunlight, 6 or more hours a day, and we started out with only 2 8x4 grow boxes. This helped us to get started with a small garden, and a little later we added an orange tree and a lemon tree. Start out with a smaller garden and a few fruit trees if you want to garden. You can always add more as you go, and get some experience either from other gardeners or by reading, going online, and asking others in your area about their gardening experience. Decide what you like to eat and what grows well in your area. Research and make a plan of where you want to put your garden, your grow boxes and trees for the greatest success. The third thing is the next step in your garden growing farm was what do you want to bring. The third basic thing that you want to think about for your hobby farm is what kind of animals you want to bring to your farm. For us, we decided to bring Ruby, our horse that we had already obtained, to our farm, and she's one of the main reasons that we wanted a farm. After settling into our home for about a year, it took us a year to get everything in place. We built the stall for Ruby, and where we live in the Southwest, the weather is mild most of the year and gets very hot in the summers. So our horse stall was built to be open and airy, and we'd never built, like I said, a horse stall before, and so it was all a new experience. I remember after we brought Ruby to our place, looking outside and thinking, how did a dinosaur get into our backyard? We had never owned such a large animal in our life, and it was very shocking and exciting to see. After we moved Ruby over into her stall, that's when we added our hens for laying eggs, and it was wonderful to have those eggs every day. And we first ordered our 14 chickens from a small mail order company. And then a few months later, we got a call from the post office that our baby chicks had arrived. Hands down, getting baby chicks from the mail is one of my favorite things to get in the mail. We set up a brooder, which is a heat lamp and a place to put our chickens. We used a large water trough and filled it with shavings and with food and water, and we welcomed our chicks into our garage. During the time of the baby chicks were in the brooder, my husband, I showed him a picture of a really cool looking coop that looked like a red barn, and he was amazing, and he was able to look at that picture and figure out how to make us the cutest. He was able to make a very cute chicken coop that looks like a red barn, and also an area where the chickens could get out of there and a little bit of a run. He was able later to put an even longer run that went into our pasture so they could let themselves out every day into the pasture. And so he was a wonderful talent with woodworking to be able to do that for us. The next thing that we decided to do was the baby doll sheep. Like I said earlier, we had to put a deposit down for 2 ewes. We'd never done sheep ever in our life. So it was a big learning curve. We had to get books about baby doll sheep. We had to read up about them. I read that their temperament was very good, that they're a little easier to handle because of their short stature. They've been around forever and ever. We read that they are great for keeping down your weeds, and also that they fertilize the ground wherever they go. We also learned that they are great with children. They're great in petting zoos, and that's what we want to do, is bring children to our farm. So we thought that was a great idea to try them. We found out they were easy to tame, and with a few little treats here and there, they were easy to tame. And before you know it, we had them, of course, eating out of our hands, and anyone could pet them and spend time with them, and they were perfect pets for a hobby farm. After we added horse chickens and our sheep, we decided that was good for us at that point, and we felt this was what we could handle at this stage of our lives. Adding one animal at a time is very good too. Instead of just going and buying every animal that you see out there, adding one at a time is a great idea. That way you can learn about each animal as you go. You can research it, find out all you can about it before you go get it, because I promise you, once you see that cute animal, whether it's a cow, a horse, a sheep, chickens, you will want them. And so find out all you can about it, add one animal at a time slowly so that you can learn about them. You cannot be overwhelmed with so many animals to feed and take care of. Also, the cost not only of purchasing an animal, but the feed and the vet and all the things that you have to do, especially with horses or sheep or goats or other animals, cows. You need to make sure it's not overwhelming for you. We would highly recommend visiting others who had the same animals in your community. That was a big help to me to find some other people that had animals, a lot of animals on their farm, and go over and see what they do on their farm. Ask them for recommendations of their favorite animals. How much, if it's an animal, say for instance, goats or sheep, how much time does it take to take care of your goats and sheep? The thing we liked about baby doll sheep is they are not the type to try to get out of their fixtures. Like if you have fences or if you have cages, they're not the type to try to jump over those or try to get out. They're not real mischievous. That's not saying that we didn't have them occasionally get into the food, like get into the hay or the alfalfa. We had them going under tarps sometimes to get into that kind of thing. But overall, they're content to stay within their boundaries, and they are very, very easy keepers, and we've really, really enjoyed having them. Also, you can look for other things like chickens. I've seen those on Craigslist. I've seen them on Facebook groups where the people are selling chickens and other animals. I also joined a baby doll sheep Facebook page and a hobby farm Facebook page where you can ask questions, where you have questions, say, about your baby doll sheep, and people can share their ideas and they can share their questions and answers to questions that you might have, say things like feeding or breeding baby doll sheep, or how to trim their hooves, or bloating or other problems you might have with your sheep. So join up some Facebook groups and share questions and talk to those around that may own these animals. The fourth question you want to ask is, what type of self-sufficiency skills are you wanting to learn? How much do you want to grow, raise, or do on your small farm? And how much of your own food do you want to grow, can, or store? Some of this will depend on how much land you have. It will depend on how much extra time you have to learn these things. Sometimes you might be just wanting to do a garden, or you might just be wanting to learn how to do sourdough or something like that, some kitchen skills, or can jam. If you have more land, you might be wanting to raise animals for pleasure or food. Do you want to learn skills like storing water, composting, gardening, or sourdough? A lot of these skills may determine what type of hobby farm you want, and also how much land and money you will have to spend on things like animals or your garden. For us, we were so excited to begin this journey that we wanted to start with a few garden beds, a few animals, and learn many new homesteading skills. The fifth thing you need to start your hobby farm is a strong desire and energy and the income money needed, and also a hardworking attitude to have success on your farm. Any small farm, even a hobby farm, will require dedication and lots of hard work. So if you have the ambition and you like being busy doing meaningful work, and hobby farming is for you. As a little bit older couple starting our farm, we knew it would take a solid commitment to be successful on our farm. We knew that a garden takes almost daily work doing the planting, watering, fertilizing, weeding, and harvesting. We knew that having animals was a daily, sometimes twice daily feeding schedule. We knew from raising other animals like dogs and cats growing up that we would have to get up early and feed animals even if we were tired. We knew that if we were ever wanting to go out of town, we'd need some consistent watering system for our garden, also for our trees, and we needed some like-minded friends and neighbors who could help us out with our animals while we were away. On our hobby farm, with our garden and with raising our meat turkeys and meat chickens, we have not been able to provide 100% of our needs for food, and also doing with our canning and drying foods. We've not been able to provide 100%, but we have been to be able to provide a lot of our food. And during COVID, we had our garden and we had food stored. And so that helped us a lot when all the grocery shelves were emptying. We were glad that we had the garden and that we had our chickens laying eggs and that we had stored up food in our pantry. And so we've been able to, with our hobby farm and our bit of land, we've been able to have success in that area. And that gives you such a feeling of success and a feeling of comfort that you can provide for yourselves and for your family and neighbors and friends. And especially something like sourdough, when yeast was hard to find during that time of COVID, it was really nice to know that we had sourdough starter and that we could still make bread no matter what, and that we had that bread for our family. And that's the time that also we started on sourdough. So All those kind of skills that we learned have been a big help to us and helping us throughout COVID and through other hard times in our lives. Hope you've enjoyed this first podcast, kind of telling you about how we got started and kind of some questions to ask if you want to start a hobby farm, and some things to really think about before you get your hobby farm, as far as your animals, as far as gardening, as far as what land you have, and what kind of skills that you want to learn. I hope that you've learned something today about that through the things that we've been through. Our next podcast, we'll be talking more specifically about how we got started on our garden and some of the things that we did to get our garden going. We've had a lot of people come and ask, how did you do this garden? How do you get things to grow? And we'll talk a little bit about that next time in our podcast. If you have any questions, make sure that you send them to me. You can send them to me on our Instagram account, which is at Hobby Farm Dream. So if you'll look that up, you can find out more things that we're learning on our farm. Or if you have any questions, feel free to message me. And we really appreciate you following along on this journey. And we've learned a lot, and we are excited to share it with anyone that's interested in having a hobby farm and learning gardening and how to raise animals and self-sufficiency skills. Thank you so much.